At the heart of connection, and I'm going to pull up some videos and show us in a minute, at the heart of connection is basically reading intentions. And what we are trying to work out, what our nervous system is trying to work out, is what is the intention of another person toward us? Do they care about us? Do they care if I feel hurt? Do they not care if I feel hurt? Do they notice if I feel hurt? Did they mean to ignore me, or did they just never notice? What Colwyn Trevarthen, who is so important to Pengrain, tried to teach us about was how babies read other people's intentions. And Paul, what you just told us was a story of a little girl who got a little bit of a shock because her friend pushed her too hard. But her friend thought that was the fun of the game, was to push her over. She wasn't badly intended. Maybe she was a bit, she had a bit too much force, or she thought she got a bit rambunctious in her play, but her intention toward her friend was not threatening. That lies at the heart of all the stuff Colwyn talked about, of all the stuff in connection, of all the stuff that we often think that we are negotiating as the adults. And actually what we do is exactly what you said, Paul. We prevent children from working out the messiness of figuring out what another person's intention is. And then that derails the relationships that they can build. Okay, so this is something really profound for a relationship network, is understanding that what our nervous systems are trying to do at the heart of attachment styles, which we might get to tonight, is a nervous system reading the intentions of another person. Even when things feel a bit uncomfortable, even when things feel a bit uncertain, even when things feel really, really messy, does my nervous system think that you are well intended to me or not? And if we use the language of attachment, with secure attachment, babies have grown up with nervous systems that believe that other people are basically well intended toward them even when they screw up. And therefore, other people can be trusted. You don't have to be hypervigilant about them. They mean well toward you, even when they screw up, even when we have a fight, even when I'm a bit sore at you, even when you did something that I don't like. I believe at an unconscious level that you are well intentioned toward me. That's what secure attachment is. Insecure attachment is a core belief that other people are not well intentioned toward me. And those, I think it is absolutely fascinating. Those core unconscious beliefs that you worked out as a baby by the time you're 1 year old form the basis on which you do relationships the rest of your life. Form the basis on which you make these unconscious assumptions, interpretations about what the meaning of another person's behavior towards you means. And all the children that you work with will be in the midst of forming those. They will already have a core pattern in place if you work with children who are over 18 months old. But of course, they can be shaped, but it's harder to do that later on than it would have been in the very, very early months. So that's true for all the children that you work with. It's true for the children that you are raising and that live in your household. And it's true for you. And it's true for me. So all of us have these core, usually unconscious beliefs, although belief is entirely the wrong word, but I don't have a better one at the moment, about what another person's intention toward us is. And we got that out of our baby brain, tracking the patterns in how you respond to me and how that feels in my body. That's all an attachment style is. And although Colwyn often didn't talk about attachment styles, and he thought Bowlby got, Bowlby got some things wrong, um, where the overlap between Bowlby and Colwyn particularly comes is that Bowlby was building on the discovery that Colwyn would make several decades later, that babies come into the world already connected to other people. Okay, here is, I will have said this last time, I say this more than anything else in the world. I forever say babies come into the world already connected to other people. And that core discovery is Colwyn's. So I'm talking straight out of Colwyn Trevarthen's work. Okay, he gave that the fancy name of intersubjectivity. And this is that fancy drawing that he did. And we can come back and talk about it if you want to work with this language of intersubjectivity. But at the core, it means this. Baby humans are born with a capacity to notice other people, to notice their eyes, to notice their facial expressions. Their brain is keeping track of the rhythm between when they feel something and what someone else does in response to that. Most people have no idea that babies have this capacity. And if we understood that, our whole society would be organized differently and we would live differently. So here's a baby at 30 minutes old looking into his mom's eyes, 30 minutes old, and who will be tracking the patterns in his mother's eyebrows, in the crinkles around her eyes, in her smiling, in her head turns in relation to him. If he whimpers, did the mother notice or does she not? If he turns away because her face has got a little bit too close, does she back off or not? Babies' brains are so much more observant than we have any idea of. And anything else that I say ever to any of us, you, ever in a presentation, builds on this one idea. So in other words, we're talking about a relational network here. Babies come into the world already active participants in a relationship, already making interpretations about the meaning of what other people do. Here is the problem, babies often get it wrong. Right? So babies infer a meaning about, that's a stupid sentence, right? Babies infer a meaning about the meaning of someone else's behavior. It's just like your little girl in your story, Paul. So the little girl who got pushed had to work out the meaning, the intention of her friend who pushed her. And to begin with, she sort of thought maybe she meant to hurt me. But when she looked at her face, she went, then why is she laughing? Is she humiliating me? Is she bullying me? Is she making fun of me? Is she actually thinking that we're having fun? Of course, all that is going on unconsciously. But she has to put together a conclusion that says, I don't think she meant to hurt me. Oh, she didn't mean to hurt me. She didn't mean to hurt me. Oh, okay, I guess we could keep playing. That is what is going on all the time in play. That is what's going on all the time in marriages. That is what's going on all the time in traffic. That is what's going on all the time in relationships everywhere. But we just do it unconsciously. And we draw on the key lessons that we learned as babies before we knew we were learning them. So let me show us that. Okay, let's actually come here. Okay, so this is a video. It has no sound. So if you can't hear this video in a minute, that's okay, there is no sound. It's a really scratchy video. It's not high quality, but it is straight out of experimental footage, now years and years old. Okay, so in this footage, we have a real baby. So that's the big baby on her mother's lap with her mother's hands around her. And in the corner, we have the baby's mirror reflection. And what we're going to do in this wonderfully weird setup is that we're going to watch the baby meet a new friend who we know is herself in the mirror. Does the baby know that? Well, that's a good question. Does the baby think it's a visual stimulus? Well, that's a good question. Does the baby think that's me? Does the baby think, what weird creature is that? Does the baby think I've got a new friend? We don't know what the baby thinks because we're using adult words to try to work out how baby interprets the world. Nonetheless, there's a lot to be learned in this video. This baby is 9 weeks old. So this baby is tiny. Once upon a time, people didn't think babies could actually really smile really well by the time they're 9 weeks old. And yet we are about to watch a baby do exactly what you talked about, Paul. This baby is going to try and work out the intentions of their new friend. Okay, so if you keep in mind this language of intentions as you watch the baby, and I don't often use that language, but we're doing a deeper dive tonight. So when the baby is looking at her friend straight on. She has a pleasant expression on her face. Now she is playing a tongue sticky outy game. She's working to keep her head up tight. See, oh, can you nod your head? What happens if I tip my head forward? Do you stay looking at me? Let's do the tongue conversation again. Do you notice if I pick up my arm, do you play that game with me? If you think of this as a baby trying to interpret the intentions of her new friend on the basis of the responsiveness of her new friend. It's really interesting to think about this as intentions because in a second we are going to play a trick on this baby. This is not actually a mirror reflection. It's actually a fancy computer setup. And we can put the baby's reflection back in time by a minute. So now you have mismatched responses. And our question becomes, does the baby notice? How would we know if he notices? And is the baby then working out intentions? How does the baby do that? But right now it's still live. Baby's playing tongue games. And now it's on replay. You are watching a baby try to work out the intentions of her new friend. And cope with the conclusions that she draws. See her cheeks sucking in and out? That's stress. Come on, a minute ago we were doing this game. Oh, she looks down. She never looked down before. Big sigh. This is baby doing exactly what your little girl did, Paul. Trying to work out what the intentions of another person are when we're no longer attuned. This is weird, uncomfortable. So in a second, we're going to play another trick. We're going to put it back to live, and we're going to watch the baby. Again, will she notice? How will she respond? What will she do? And here we're live. And here's the baby responding. Here's the baby reacting to the fact that her friend is now back in attunement with her. She doesn't know why, but she's got a big smile on her face. Her eyes have come back to looking at her friend. They're not down anymore. She come back to the tongue game. We've just watched a baby trying to figure out what the intentions of another person are when things feel uncomfortable. So to begin with, it was great. We were having a great time playing. And then things got really uncomfortable and the baby has no idea why. But the baby has to cope with that. And then suddenly her friend's back. Her friend didn't explain where she went or why she's come back. The baby has to cope with all that. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking for a minute. There's more I can say, but I'm going to stop talking. What does seeing that video and reading it through the language of intentions and Paul's story, what does it make you think about or wonder or marvel at? Okay, brilliant. So as long as we're talking intentions, let's just do a bit more of this. Let's come back to here. Okay, let's come back to these. I can't even remember if I showed these last time or not, but it won't matter whether I did or not because they're always worth seeing again. Okay, so here's a 3-month-old baby taking part in another experiment in another video for which there is no sound. Okay, in this experiment, which was done by one of Colwyn's close colleagues, Vasu Reddy, and got picked up in the Belfast papers. This was big news in Belfast, like that must be about 15 years ago. Okay, she did something really basic in this research. All she's doing is having mothers pick up the baby. That's all we're going to see here. It's going to look like nothing. So we'll see it a couple of times to get our heads around it. So we've got the baby laying on a pressure mat where you can actually measure the tension in their muscles. So you can actually plot which muscles move when. We're not going to see that. But in other words, you can track how a body and a baby is responding to the interpretations that they're making of another person. That's interesting to think about. But here we're just going to watch what happens. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just play it so you can see it, and then we'll play it again. Okay, so all that happens is the mom stands up, and we've asked the moms to slow down a little bit, please, so we can see what's happening, and she picks the baby up. That's it. Okay, so let's see it again. And let's think about the sense that the baby is making of this moment, of this interaction with another person at 3 months old. So at 3 months old, what can they do? They can lift their arms, they can lift their legs, they can see a bit further than they could when they were born. They can now lift their head. Like what capacities has a baby got to draw on in making interpretations and then acting on them? Most people would think a 3-month-old can't do anything that sophisticated. And yeah, the mother is starting to stand up. Where are the baby's eyes? They're on the mother's face. They're not on the mother's elbows or the mother's chest. They're on the mother's face. And as the mother continues to stand up, the babies track her face. The baby tracks her face. So it's like this moment of being picked up is a social moment for her. It is a relational moment. And we can see that the baby's arms and legs are going. So it's like she is reading the future. She is reading that something is about to happen that she's excited about. In other words, she is reading something about her mother's intentions toward her in the future. Maybe she's going as far as reading her mother's intended action, which is to pick her up. How does a 3-month-old read the future? And because we've asked her to slow down, look what happens. The baby reads the future so clearly, and the mother has not yet touched her. The baby prepares for the future that she has interpreted, perceived, guessed at. It's profound. This is profound. The baby moves her body into the future that she expects on the basis of someone else's behavior. It's amazing. The, so I'll just keep saying it so we can think about how profound that is. The baby adjusts her body in accord with the future that she guesses is about to happen. And because she doesn't know that some evil psychologists ask her mother to slow down, she gets a bit confused about, okay, what is going on here? I'm ready. I am ready. I've got my arms out, my legs out. Now I'm picking up my head. The baby puts her whole body into the future that she has read. Now we know that this story ends happily, and the baby read the future correctly, and her mom was going to pick her up, and she got her body ready for that. Maybe we could describe that as babies help their mothers pick them up. Then you think, is that the right way to describe this? If you help your mother pick you up, then you read an intention to do the picking up, and you read an intention of a mother who means something nice toward you. And you moved your body into the future that you predicted about that other person. What happens if at this point the mother changes her mind and she doesn't follow through with that action? What happens if at this point the mother's mobile phone goes off and she turns to answer the mobile phone? And I'm leaving a long pause so that we can think about what the baby will feel or make sense of that action. So does the baby feel confused? Does the baby feel disappointed? Does the baby feel ignored? Does the baby feel tricked? Does the baby, if this happened over and over again, does the baby start to conclude other people are not reliable? Other people are too hard to read. Screw them. Does the baby get furious about the fact that they often trick me? And does that become worked into their biology of their stress system? And is that truly happening at 3 months old? And has Suzanne Zeedyk overinterpreted a really ordinary act of getting picked up? Or, following in the footsteps of Colvin Trevarthen, are we actually taking time to notice how profound the interactions are? Because if a baby can do that at 3 months old, can they do that at 2 months old? This is a 2-month-old baby. Can a baby who's 8 weeks read intentions in other people and move their body into the future that they project on the basis of the intentions that they read? Let's find out. Mom's eyebrows go up. Mom puts her hands out. Baby's arms and legs go up. Can we see that one more time? And then I'm going to stop this and we can have another conversation. Where are the baby's eyes? On the mother's face. Look at the expression on the baby. The baby doesn't look scared. The baby doesn't look uncomfortable. The baby doesn't look threatened. The baby is smiling in the same way that the baby was in the mirror interaction. We're continuing to have a conversation. The baby's arms and legs are moving a bit, but because this is an 8-week-old, her neck isn't strong enough yet to hold up her head. The mother puts out her hands. Up go the baby's arms and legs. And then the little entertaining thing about this is this baby doesn't know that the evil psychologist said to mom, please slow down the pickup. So this baby is like, I'm holding up my arms and legs, but they're really heavy. I don't have very strong muscles yet. The baby is trying to stay in the future that she read to the extent that her muscles will allow her. But they're starting to fall. And yet the baby seems to trust the mother enough about this long, extended, slightly confusing moment that the baby stays in it for the interpretation that she makes about another person's intentions toward her. So come back to me, computer. Stop sharing. When Paul tells us a story about a little girl who gets knocked over and goes, oh, it's not very comfortable. I don't like this. And she can stay in the discomfort long enough to go, did she mean to hurt me? It doesn't look like she meant to hurt me. She's laughing. It looks like she meant to have fun. She's able to sit with the not knowing long enough to work it out. If she had a really reactive stress system, she might not have been able to do that. She might have gone, how dare you do that, and punched her because she couldn't sit with the discomfort of not knowing for a bit because her stress system might have learned in the past that people are not reliable and they're mean to you. And at the first tiny moment that you get hurt, you get yourself defended. Or she might have turned away and gone, that's it. People are never reliable. I shouldn't play with them ever. I'm not playing this game with you anymore. As another way of protecting herself. The amazing thing about your little girl who got pushed over, who this is still probably not her favoriteest game, but she can stay in it enough to play and make a relationship and trust the other one's intentions. It's remarkable. The baby's capacities are remarkable that we've just seen in the videos. And your story of noticing that is remarkable as we try to unravel the profoundness in it. Human beings are born already reading other people's intentions. It's how we are. We read intentions because otherwise we can't do relationships. We kind of have maybe a nation of children who are less resilient because we're living in a time in which our tech changed. That is really hard to think about. Mm-hmm. That is really uncomfortable. I tried on social media today to comment on a new report that has come out about the impact of screen time on young children. It's a very powerful, scary report. And I tried to make what I thought was a really positive but scary comment. I talked about loving parents who are sold iPads, in fluffy pink colors so they look like toys. That produced a pushback. Several people said to me, "Why are you being so judgmental of parents?" And I was reminded once again how scary it is to learn any of this because we feel judged for how good we are as parents or how good we are as practitioners. And it blocks us from being able to actually hear how children develop and how much power we carry in ways we didn't realize. So that making spaces like this to have these conversations are incredibly important and powerful. And is part of why I continue to say that Penn Green is really leading, it's really leading practice and theory. And we don't talk enough about how the information on relationships and trauma feels to people when they hear it. We just try to give them the information without paying attention to how we emotionally respond to that. And trying to link together what we're talking about tonight and what we talked about last time. And actually, there's a huge relief in that because all the data show that there are masses of mismatches. The mismatches occur all the time in human relationships, including in relationships with babies. So we should not get worried about mismatches. In fact, if there weren't mismatches, your little girl who got pushed over wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn that her friend didn't mean to hurt her, even if it was a bit shocking. Right? So she's learned something really valuable. And that will matter to that little girl, if she has enough of those experiences, when she grows up and gets married. Or when she grows up and falls in love. That's a better example. She grows up and falls in love, and sometimes the person that she loves hurts her. Does that mean she needs to leave? Does that mean she needs to shoot him? Does that mean that she needs to submit herself to be hit herself? Right? These are extreme examples, but it's how a stress system responds to uncomfortable moments. So some people have a stress system that lets you stay even in the midst of abuse. That can be read through the lens we are talking about tonight. And other people can't bear any mismatch and they leave long before love had a chance to grow deeper roots because it's too scary to trust it. That is a grown-up version of what happened in your forest and is happening in these videos. Do we have a stress system that is able to forgive people when they mess up sometimes? Do we have a stress system that determines when somebody is actually now really not well intentioned toward you and you're in danger, you need to leave? We're trying to help children to develop a stress system that can make those judgments. And so if I come back to this, if I come back to a few more slides, which I hope will help us. Let's come back to here. Da-da-da-da-da. Thank you, computer. Okay, so let's do a teeny bit on attachment styles and link it to what we're talking about tonight. Just so that you can maybe go back and see this in the forest tomorrow morning. Okay, so when people talk about attachment styles, and if you don't have a lot of experience in attachment, it doesn't matter, okay? We'll just have enough here for you to work with. But when people do talk about attachment styles, they often start with a drawing like this. But I start with a drawing like this. Okay, so my drawing is much more simple. And I often do not use the word intentions, but it's a fantastic word to read, to use in relation to all of this. So I'll use it tonight because it's the word that's come up. Okay, so when I talk about attachment, I try to remind everybody that in order to do relationships, all of us need to be able to do some connection and some disconnection. So if you live in a house with somebody that you love and you went to work this morning, you needed to be able to do disconnection. You needed to be able to say, goodbye, darling, I'm off. And your darling needs to not throw him or her arms around your knees and beg you never to leave. Because if you can't leave, you can't go to work. And I'm trying to help us to laugh because, of course, babies often throw themselves around their parents' knees and beg them not to leave them at nursery. Okay, when you went off to work this morning, hopefully you wanted to come home to that person. So you need to be able to do connection as well. You need to miss that person enough to want to reconnect at the end of the day. So in order to do healthy relationships, you need to be able to do the emotion of a bit of disconnection and a bit of connection. You need also to be able to go, I'm going into the kitchen now in order to make a cup of tea. So you need to be able to disconnect enough to go in the other room. And probably even if you're really in, if you're in deep, deep love, you probably sometimes want to look away from the eyes of your beloved. You need to be able to do a bit of disconnection, and your beloved needs to be able to trust that just because you've shifted your eyes away from them doesn't mean that you're about to pack your bags and go out the door. So I'm trying to, I'm doing my standard thing of making really extreme statements, but they help us to see the patterns. We need to be able to do connection and disconnection in relationships. Okay, so we could have other words to describe that. We need to be able to do closeness, and we need to be able to do space. We need to be able to do intimacy. By that, I mean, looking in each other's eyes, and we need to be able to do a bit more emotional distance, if we want to call it that. We need to be able to do intensity. I really missed you. Give me a hug. And we need to be able to do low key sometimes. So I'm just trying to find words that kind of produce a contrast, that we need to be able to do both in order to do a healthy relationship. Okay, or you might call this, you need to be able to do a bit of drama and you need to be able to do a bit of subdued. So if you can never, ever, ever express excitement toward another person about that other person, your relationship may not have much vibrancy to it. But if you have to express drama all of the time and you can never do subdued and still feel like you're staying connected, that's going to be a problem as well. That's going to be exhausting for at least probably one of you, maybe both of you. Maybe it's going to be really inappropriate in some settings. You need to be able, all of us need to be able to do both. Okay. The question is, can we do both? Okay, so I need to come up here for just a moment in case no one has heard me talk about saber-toothed tigers and teddy bears. Okay, we could come back on another night and talk about this in more depth. I talk about the stress system as being made up of the saber-toothed tiger system and the teddy bear system. So the saber-toothed tiger system is when you have to do uncomfortable emotions and your body feels a bit under threat and you need your stress system to help you with threat. So when a little girl was pushed over, her saber-toothed tiger system will have stepped in while she tried to work out if her friend was being mean to her. So she will have had a boost in cortisol. Her breathing will have changed. Her heart rate will have changed. Her body needed to help her with this uncomfortable moment. If you have road rage, you're in a saber-toothed tiger moment. If you have a child who's struggling to separate from their parents at the beginning of the day, they're in a saber-toothed tiger moment. If you are irritated with a child because actually it's time for you to go on break and they won't let you and you need to go to the loo, you are in your saber-toothed tiger moment. If you are irritated because you have to do more paperwork and you can't actually spend time with children on the floor, you're in a saber-toothed tiger moment. Okay. And the other system in our stress system, the other subsystem, is the teddy bear system. So that's when you calm down. That's when you feel like you belong. That's when you feel cozy. That's when you feel like you're relaxed. That's when your breathing slows down and your heart rate slows down. And you can be relaxed. That's the whole point of a teddy bear, is to invoke those feelings. Okay. We have a healthy life if we can go back and forth. We have a healthy stress system if we can go back and forth between saber-toothed tiger states and teddy bear states. And as long as you can get back to a teddy bear state after you've gone into a saber-toothed tiger state, your stress system is not overburdened. But tons of people can't do that. Tons of people go really fast into a saber-toothed tiger state, or they don't get back easily into a teddy bear state. Some people never get into their teddy bear states, hardly ever, because their stress system developed in a way because it understood the world to be threatening. And there's tons of other stuff I can say about this, but if you get the basic idea, let's come back to attachment styles. So what attachment styles are asking is, can you be comfortable in both connection and disconnection? Or does one or the other of those ends often feel like a saber-toothed tiger state to you? Does it feel threatening? That's the question we're asking ourselves, is how does your nervous system cope with connection and disconnection? Okay. If you're securely attached, you're reasonably comfortable in both. You're reasonably in your teddy bear state in both connection and disconnection. Neither of them are inherently threatening. So when somebody goes to make a cup of tea, your stress system is not heightened. And you might go, does anybody do that when you go to have a cup of tea? Yes, for some people, for their nervous system, their partner going to make a cup of tea, let alone going away to work, let alone not replying to a text message, is threatening. So for those people who are threatened by disconnection, but who calm down when you reconnect, that's an ambivalent style, or what some people call an anxious style. Okay, and you will have lots of children who are threatened by a disconnection moment, and you can help them calm down by reconnecting. They have a strategy for calming down, which is reconnect with the person. So basically, again, to be a little bit extreme, their stress system decided that if you leave, they're going to die. You will never talk to them again, and they will die. Avoidant is the alternative. For children and then grown-ups who end up with an avoidant attachment system, disconnection is the calming bit. Connection is threatening to that stress system. So if you try to get too emotionally close, if you try to make me talk about emotions too much, if you try to come really close to me, my stress system can't cope with it. I need you to back off. And if you back off and disconnect a bit, I can calm down. If we want a moment of laughter, imagine what happens when these two people get together. This is a really common pairing. Ambivalent people and avoidant people get together all the time in romance. And, it works for a while. And then then the dance becomes very uncomfortable if they do not understand why they are triggering each other. But what's really important about ambivalent and avoidant is that these are organized systems. And by that, I mean you can relax your stress system and get it to calm down if you can get the other person to do what you need, which is either reconnect, you calm down, or back off, you calm down. So there is a solution to your saber-toothed tiger state. Thus the other person makes it worse. This is the most difficult state. For people who have a disorganized pattern, everything is a saber-toothed tiger state. They want to be close, so they kind of go to be emotionally close, but oh, that's too scary, so I back off. Oh no, now that I feel too lonely, so I move back in, but that's too scary. So I move back out emotionally, in and out, in and out, in and out. This does in the head of the partner because you can't get a clear enough pattern to know whether you want to engage with me or not, whether you want to trust me or not, you want to be in this relationship or not. There is no solution to this person's underlying fear. There is no place of peace except on their own, not doing relationships. This pattern often comes out of abuse, and this pattern leads to mental health, great mental health difficulties, um, physical health difficulties. There's no place of peace and ease. There's no resolution to the stress. And so, as I stop this and we come back to another discussion, this is a very interesting relational dynamic that we could, all of us, benefit from understanding. Because, of course, we're just getting a really quick snapshot here. One can go much deeper into this, but it's at least a start because all of us bring a kind of a core style. So we are triggered by relationships. If you end up in a relationship that does too much of the thing that triggers you, it becomes really rapidly unhealthy. And your stress system can't cope with the rhythms and patterns of it. The children that you work with will be bringing attachment styles, right? And so some of them become really, so if we come back here to this one, ambivalent children tend to be really dramatic. Because I need you to come back! Come back! I need you to come back! So they do drama, which we often see as misbehavior. These children are often not dramatic at all, but they're not engaged, they're withdrawing from engagement. So we might not notice that they're withdrawing from engagement because they don't cause as much problem. But that's going to be a problem when they grow up and get married. So these are the like repressed. So they repress rather than do drama, they repress it. And we can have all sorts of conversations about where does that come from and relate, the patterns and all of that. But one of the important reflections in this is it's not just the children you work with, it's you as the professional. So professionals bring an attachment style, and that will come out in their work with children. And if staff have not been helped to think about, reflect on, and understand their own attachment style, then it gets in the mix of what is happening with children. And if we get a training on attachment styles, we're much more likely to think about the children that we're with rather than ourselves.